Thank you all for joining me today. Before I take some questions, I'd like to encourage all of you, especially those of you who are residents of the city, to participate in the 2014 Citizen Survey. I figured since you're here, I might as well do my Twitter version of my ad. The Citizen Survey is an annual report card for city government, and I certainly urge all citizens to participate. This is our way of taking the temperature of where our constituents think that we're doing well, where there are areas of improvement. We collect and utilize the survey data to better understand what residents believe are the top issues facing the city. This annual survey provides time trend data that measures the changes in residents' attitudes, behaviors, and quality of life indicators. And city agencies will review the results this year as they have done in the past and incorporate them into their budget proposals in the next fiscal year. I think it's very important that we have a clear understanding of what issues are impacting our communities. I do that on a routine basis with the virtual town halls, with the public forums. This is a standardized way that we take a look at year-over-year data, and it's an opportunity for residents to offer their full perspective on current conditions. Phone survey, which is also offered in Spanish, is a scientific study that requires complete answers. Therefore, residents are asked to stay on the phone during for the duration of the call. The online survey is also available in English and in Spanish. And for more information about the survey, visit the Bureau of Revenue and Research Management website at bbmr.baltimorecity.gov, bbmr.baltimorecity.gov. This concludes my commercial.
Is the city conducting the survey on its own, or has it contracted?
We have a contract, and it was on the BOE a couple. I know we've talked about it. I don't know if you were here at the time. It was a contract. We had an arrangement with University of Baltimore, and now we have a different vendor.
Do you know who that vendor is?
I don't know the name off the top of my head. I know they're out of Philadelphia, I believe.
And when do you guys end the survey? When should people stop? Is it September 29th? Or?
I don't have the date for when we end it. Yes, you are correct. September 29th.
Okay.
All right.
Karen, what factors do you believe are playing a role right now in the city's growing homicide rate among juveniles?
You know, I'm asking those same questions. I don't have an answer. It's something that we're taking a look at, and we're looking at very, very seriously. I say it all the time. I don't think we have a spare kid. You know, that's why we have to make sure that we get this right. And when you have a homicide, there are no do-overs. That's why this work is so important. We, in every way that we touch the lives of young people, we're asking ourselves that question and what we can do to work together better to attack that issue of the increased violence among juveniles. And we're even asking that question of our outside partners. When this happens and people are looking for answers, there are a lot of different theories, and we're asking those questions, like I said, of ourselves. And are there any things that any outside, any non-city related entities are doing that have impacted the amount of youth violence?
Do you hope that the curfew centers are going to curb this?
I think the curfew centers are just one part of a broad spectrum of things that we need to do to ensure that we're protecting young people. I think in their own way, they will be helpful because they're already starting to be seen as a safe haven for young people. Is it the one thing that's going to change it? I don't believe that is the case. I've never believed that is the case, but I do think that having not just the curfew itself, but having that place where we can connect young people to services is important.
I've seen reports that indicate that the city hopes to open 9 curfew centers and have them open 7 days a week, 24/7. Is that the case?
I think we know what the goal is, and that is to provide a safe haven for young people and to provide services for the young people and their families, and that is the way that the young people and their families are receiving the services that we are providing at the Curfew Center. it is an evolution, so when we started, we had a plan based on what we think would be the best way to implement the updated law. But what my goal is to make sure that we are, whatever we do, we're doing it in response to the conditions that we're seeing on the ground and how we can best address the real need that we're seeing in the community. So I don't think, what I'm saying is we haven't scrapped that notion, but however we get to that, the full ramp up will be informed by how people are using the services and how we best feel like we can stop our young people from falling through the cracks.
So do you plan to open the 9? Has that ever been mentioned by you?
Yeah, when I talked about, when Angela's spoken about it, when I've spoken about it, we talked about that being the goal. What I'm saying to you is, as we ramp up and get to what a full ramp up looks like, that will be done informed by how people are actually using the centers that we've put in place.
Do you think the first month of the center has been a success? Is it too early to tell? Is it?
I think it's too early to tell. I think that it is a learning process because of the way in which we feel people are seeing the centers. As we've had the centers before, right? During the summer since 2008, we've had the Curfew Center, and they've been one thing. Our focus in the Youth Connection Centers was really about getting the resources that we had, as well as community stakeholders engaged, so we could connect young people to services. Because of that focus, what we're seeing is that people are looking at it as more than a drop-off pickup place for young people, but really a safe haven and a place where they can come to if they need help. So that's why I talked about what that full ramp up looks like, because of the way the community has received it, we have to incorporate that in what a full scale connection center network looks like. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, basically we don't know yet whether
I can't say it's getting an A or a B or a C. What I can say is that the community is using it, that young people, we were having a meeting yesterday, and a young person got picked up from the connection center. They were playing basketball with one of the youth connectors, and the mother comes to pick him up, and he says, well, are we going to do this tomorrow? So it's not, that's answering and asking questions, right? So this is supposed to be a drop-off pickup, right? That's what we had before, but we're trying to connect people with services. But when that happens, you see that it's not, what I think, unfortunately, some people are trying to put out there. It's like, baby jails. No, this is about connecting people with services. And when people get those needs met, it's something that they want to participate in. Well, that's not the goal, to be, all-night spot for kids. So we have, you have to figure out how we can, we don't want kids to run around so they can go to the connection center. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So.
But in other words, but you haven't done any tracking yet, or do you plan to do any tracking to see whether the families that come in contact with the center, their lives actually improve, or?
Oh, what we're doing is tracking whether we have recidivism, and we are going back, the youth connectors are going back and making sure that the people that are referred to services are getting the services. Whether we can say definitively that lives are improved, I don't know if we can determine that information, but as far as, did we provide the opportunity to connect them with the resources that they need? Check. Did they indeed follow up and get those resources? Check. That's what we're looking for.
Are there
Keep track of how many kids have been picked up for Curfew centers?
Yes.
Do you know the number?
We, in general, know the number. I do not know the specific number.
Are there specific agencies represented?
Yeah, and I can get you, I know that in the document that we have, the pamphlet that has all information, it has all of that in there, and I can get that for you.
The 2014 Inspector General annual report, shows that the budget was increased, but by about $800,000, but the amount of money recovered from taxpayers is significantly lower, $50,000. Are you concerned about the performance of the office at all?
I think part of what they do is recover funds, and a lot of the work that they do doesn't involve the recovery of funds at all, but it's very useful work. I think, I'm interested in having an inspector general that operates independently. I think we have that. He doesn't have a revenue goal. He has a performance goal of consistently and transparently rooting out corruption, misconduct, and fraud and abuse in city government.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't believe a couple of the investigations that were in that report were not announced publicly before. Am I right about that?
Yeah, they weren't investigative reports.
Do you think that those should be made public immediately upon completion, or wait till the annual report?
I would have to look at the ones that you're talking about. I know one of the things the Inspector General strives to do is to put that information out. I know he has his own website, so I don't know those specific ones that you're talking about.
May I ask a red line question?
Of course you can.
What's Plan B? So let's say the feds don't fund it. Let's say that Hogan wins in November. He's not a public transit man. Let's say that the drilling runs into the problem that Seattle's run into, trying to dig a highway tunnel. So the cost now starts to really escalate, and the state says, we don't go here. So let's just say all of that. Is there a plan B for your idea of a world-class
I do
city
not,
has
right. So if the question is what were to happen if all of those things happened at once, I do not have a response. I do not have a plan for that contingency.
If the red line got abandoned?
If Hogan gets elected, if we drill and have the problems like Seattle and the costs, explode, if the federal government, if all of those things happen at once, no, there is not a contingent that I am aware of, a contingency.
You acknowledge that there are lots of things that could happen that are some wild cards here that,
I think everyone.
The only thing that's certain is that the county's kind of committed, and the city have committed to local commitment. The federal commitment is not decided. The state's commitment is, I guess there's a commitment there, but the dollar amount is funky, and there is no P3 at the moment. So it's behind the purple line commitment, and it has a lot of challenges ahead of it because it has to, in terms of its construction. So do you acknowledge that there's a lot of challenge ahead?
Absolutely, and I don't think anybody has said anything different.
Mayor, the Horseshoe Casino had its opening weekend. 50,000 visitors came, but also there were some incidents that got filmed online, of fights and so forth. What's your opinion of the start of the Horseshoe Casino? I know you're a fan and a promoter. How do you think it went?
I think it went exceptionally well. The rollout was great. The leadership at Caesars said that they can't remember a better grand opening of a Horseshoe Casino ever. While it's certainly unfortunate that the incidents happened, I think the response was appropriate and was handled internally. I think that, as I said, they were unfortunate. They certainly, in my mind, the viral nature of them aside, don't overshadow how brilliantly the Horseshoe opened. It was exceptional, and it was because a lot of people worked really hard to get it to be an exceptional rollout. And I'm sure just as they appropriately and immediately handled the incidents that happened during the opening weekend, they will continue to do so.
It's been a month since the Tyrone West report came out from the independent committee. Did you have a chance to read it, and did you have any thoughts on it?
No more thoughts than I've had in the past.
You think it's interesting that they're now, the protesters to that incident, they're now looking at Ferguson and trying to put all of this together as far as the lack of respect the police have for the community?
I'm not 100% sure I understand your question.
Let me try this. As far as, let's just go on this route. The overall issue that, and I'm doing a story on this as well, is particularly interaction between the community and police, particularly the black community and police. And in interviews with regular people at the Inner Harbor and some of the neighborhoods, they feel that they can't trust them.
Yeah. And I hope that I've been clear that building trust between the community and police has been a priority of mine. This is not the first time I talked about it, and I talked about it way before there was a Ferguson. Way before there was a Ferguson, I implemented my public safety town halls. I went to every single district in the city, plus a citywide youth forum. Why? Because, and I've talked about this from this podium in my State of the City, that we need to build the bridges and work better, and build a relationship between the police and the community. So the fact that you're telling me that people don't trust police, I've said that to you.
And I remember we were in Bel Air Edison, but there was no Ferguson at that time. So how important is it now in the light of people looking at television, seeing what's happening in Missouri?
Well, my hope is that, Ferguson, the incident with Michael Brown was a horrible incident. My hope is in your reporting that you reflect fairly that before Ferguson was an issue, that's something that was important to me and something that I valued enough to go around to every single police district to have that conversation, because it was important that we address those issues of brutality, of respect, what that looks like in different communities, and make sure that the police commissioner heard from residents from every single part of the city. It didn't take Ferguson for that to matter to me. So I hope, as you're asking these questions and trying to merge those two things, that you accurately reflect that was a priority of mine before you started asking me about it or before Ferguson.
You know I'm gonna be fair on the report, but I'm just asking now that we have the benefit of time looking back at Ferguson.
Do I think what I did was a good thing? Yes.
That wasn't my question.
But I'm trying to figure out how you're trying to tie it in when I've said before Ferguson it was important to me.
The question was, looking at those incidents, how important is it to keep on the mission of building trust with the community?
It is a priority. I've spoken about it from this podium. I've spoken about it in my State of the City. Building trust and building relationship between the police and the community has been a priority, and that will not change. I've said it from here. I've said it in my State of the City. I said it when we were on the walks. And not only did I say it, but because I then followed that up with the extensive outreach that I've done in every single part of the city, as well as a citywide youth forum on public safety, shows not only am I talking about it, but we are taking action on those issues.
Last question. Mayor, I've been asked to...
I'm sorry, you've asked several. You had one?
Sorry. StarSpangled Banner, I'm starting to lighten up the mood a little bit. It's next week. How's the city prepared? Is it ready?
We are beyond ready. We're thrilled that we will have an opportunity to showcase Baltimore City and to remind the country that, as far as I'm concerned, after that we finish singing the anthem, the last part should be "Thank you, Baltimore," because of the Battle of Baltimore, and because of the men and women of all ages, races, creeds came together and fought back the British. We don't have those interesting accents, and we get to celebrate our national anthem, something that brings pride to Americans no matter where they live. That is something that every Baltimorean should be particularly proud about, and we will get to showcase with the tall ships, with the largest fireworks display we've ever had in the city, with the concerts, and I'm certainly starting to see throughout the city more people really getting revved up about what that's going to be. The Blue Angels, I forgot about the Blue Angels that are going to be in town. It's going to be great. It's going to be a celebration like we have never seen in Baltimore, and I'm very excited about that work. And yes, we are very ready and spent a lot of time preparing, not just to have a good time, but to make sure that everyone who comes has a good time in Baltimore as well.
And the Yankees.
Can we expect any special
And the
guests?
Steelers.
That's right.
At the same
Wow.
time?
On the 11th, the Steelers.
What do you want me to give a thumbs up to the Steelers?
Can we expect any special guests at StarSpangled Celebration or whatever?
Like,
Last week.
I heard Somebody from the White House.
Someone would like to boost his popularity.
I can't confirm that. I'm certainly hopeful. I mean, this is it's an important day for Baltimore, but it's also a very important part of America's history, and it's significant. And I would love to, have, any of those people who are in the federal government, whether they, are in the White House or in the Congress. I think it's important to have a reminder of how we got where we are as a democracy and as a country. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.